Alright, so let's talk blades because that's what we're into. Today I have for you guys a classic. But first, I want to talk to you guys about the importance of blade safety. And I'm saying that as you see this bandaged hand. Trust me, it looks way worse than it actually is. So before I get into this Talwar from Coldsteel, I just want to go over a few things about blade safety. Mostly when it comes to higher end swords, like a katana, for instance. Earlier, I was practicing for one of my videos for you guys. I was going to do a cutting demonstration with a tactical wakizashi, and I was practicing how I was going to be cutting. So I filled some bottles up with some water, and I put it outside, and I was practicing cutting. As I was doing that, I had my hand way too close to the entrance of the saya, or the scabbard. The holder of the blade, basically, is what I'm trying to say. As I was pulling the sword from the scabbard, the tip of the blade came up and actually sliced the inside of the base of my thumb right here as I was pulling it out. I've done this maneuver hundreds of times. I've been taught how to do it. I know how to do it very well. Never once have I ever injured myself till today, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that if you stop doing what you do for a while, you tend to lose your motor skills a little bit. You tend to kind of get a little rusty at what you're good at doing, and it happens to everybody. I hear stories from people who go fishing. They make mistakes, and they're pros at what they do. I've seen tons of videos where idiots shoot themselves, or at least maybe one or two videos of somebody not being careful, like the ever so famous guy who shot himself in the leg while trying to draw his pistol out of his holster. I think we all know that one, and that one's it's a good indication that it doesn't matter how good you are, it's still your accident, it's still your fault, and you should know better. Not saying that I shot myself ever. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that accidents happen, and it can be anywhere, for any reason, doing anything that you know you're good at doing. But this is one of those things. Be mindful of what you do. My cut wasn't that big. It just looks really bad. It's just a small nick, about that wide. Probably maybe about like less than half an inch at most. But it was a deep enough cut to where the tip of my sword actually just sliced into the skin. And it didn't start bleeding at first, but I felt it. It was a really clean cut. And how you know it was clean? Because you don't bleed. It's that clean. So, quick thinking, I was like, ooh, alright, let's go and dress it up. So I came upstairs, opened up my first aid kit, got the biggest Band-Aid I could find, and I'm like, alright, I'm hoping for the worst, because I already know that it's going to be bad. I just didn't know how bad. And I moved my thumb to the side this way, just a little bit, and it was just enough to open the wound, and the blood came out. It just came out, and I was like, whoa! So I instantly, I had everything ready, so I wiped it down, or I kind of soaked it in a really thick paper towel, just a little bit. I held it, and then I wrapped it up real quick. And the reason why I have so much gauze on this hand is to help keep the thumb straight while the Band-Aid is still on there. I've cleaned it up. It's not that bad. It just looks bad, but it could have been worse. And by that I mean anything that you do could potentially, could be worse. I've seen a guy come into my job, and he had these two fingers were gone. He just had a nub, and then these three fingers, and he had his hand wrapped. And he had a friend with him, and I was like, whoa, like that wound looked fresh. So, I'm talking to him, and he's like, man, that garlic ain't no joke. And what I didn't understand what that meant, but I guess he works in a facility where there's this grab claw thing, and it's called the garlic, and it's this big old claw that clamps down and pulls. I guess at some point within this factory, he had to handle it, and I don't know if he was doing repairs or if he was trying to get something into it or out of it. I don't know, but it clamped down and it removed his thumb and his forefinger, and it happened so quickly. He said that he didn't feel anything. He lost his fingers instantly, and he's like, right now, I kind of have that phantom limb where you kind of feel like your fingers are still there, but they're not. And I always thought it was a really interesting story. I was like, wow. And I always remember that. He goes, it doesn't matter how good you are at something. It doesn't matter how safe you are. You can always slip up and make an accident anywhere, anytime, for any reason. And I've, cut myself at work several times with a box cutter, countless times. Someone calls my name, or someone gets my attention, or maybe, I'm doing too much at once and I slip up and I cut myself. So blade safety, guys, whether it's a folding knife, whether it's a fixed blade, whether it's a utility knife, whether it's a sword or a machete, please, please, please use caution. Even these you can lose a finger. You could cut something open and need stitches. Thank goodness my cut wasn't that bad. I just wrapped it up and I'm fine. So sucks I'm not going to be able to lift weights for a little bit, so I obviously don't want to reopen the wound, so it might be a couple days, but I'm okay with that, I guess. So be really careful with sharp objects. Be really careful with everything, I guess, is what my point is. Just be really careful. Don't be an idiot like me. Well, I mean, I didn't intentionally do this, but still, accidents happen, so just be mindful of what you do and what you operate with, so you don't, cut yourself, especially with blades that we're all into. So let's get into the video now that I've got that disclaimer out of the way. Coldsteel Talwar. I've been having trouble trying to find this knife for sale. I went on Amazon, couldn't find it. I went on eBay, and the ones that I did find were used, and some were jacked up in price. This is a very old Talwar. I got this, I want to say 5-6 years back. I got this knife. I saw it, and I instantly wanted it. This is the AUS 8 version. They do have one in CTS XHP Carpenter Steel. One of my buddies has one, and Carpenter Steel, and it's a beast. It really is. It's a really nice. I guess he liked mine so much that he went and got himself one, but in better steel. And hats off to him. Carpenter Steel is great. It really is. So I'm sure you could find this knife somewhere for sale. It's got G10 handle scales. It's got a two-way pocket clip for tip-up carry only, but you can use it for right or left. Has the also famous access lock, which is right here. Very strong lockup. It's, to me, and I know the Talwar is actually based off of a, I'm going to say this kind of vulgar, of Persian-style saber. And that's basically, it's a fighting blade. So this is intended for that, obviously, and Coldsteel is no shy way of saying that this is just a letter opener. No, this is meant for fighting. But of course, you could use it to open letters. Sure, why not? So let's go into the specs on this knife. When I first bought it, it wasn't cheap. It was a little over $100 when I got it. So let's go ahead and get into it. I can't really use this thumb very much. But yeah, that was a really... And I did. I ended up cutting 3 bottles today, and just to see how sharp the blade was. 4.92 ounces on this bad boy, so just under 5 ounces, but that's still, pretty beastie kind of weight. Yeah, I found out that my blade is actually it's decently sharp, but not as sharp as I would like it to be. But that's okay. It still cuts. Oh, almost 4 inches. I want to say about, yeah, just a smidge close to 4 inches, with a total of 9 1/8 inches altogether. There are obviously no liners, as you can tell, using the light from the outside source. Just a bunch of pocket lint and G10 handle scales. Now let's see how wide it is. At the handle, you're looking at 13.4. At the blade, you are looking at 2.4. So it's a decent knife. It really is. I carried this for, oh man, how long have I carried? I want to say I carried this for almost a year until I moved my interest to another blade. I like this so much. And here's the thing about this knife. This is waveable out the pocket. You see that? It's got that recessed. You can wave this out the pocket. It's a little tricky and it's a bit tough to wave it out the pocket because the shape, the blade shape. I don't know why. I think it's just really wide at the blade, so you're pulling a lot of metal once you're pulling it out. And not to mention the handle is kind of in that crescent contour, so when you're pulling it out, you have to be really mindful about how you position when you open this thing. It's going to be a really tough one, but once you get it out, it's open. Bad thing is, when I got this knife, there was a lot of lock stick. I mean, it was bad. We had to take channel locks to it and pop it open. Now, what I did with this is I went ahead and this is the first time and last time I've ever done this. I took this knife apart, just took one of the scales off and took this and I sanded down a little bit. I sanded down just a little bit of the inside. You can kind of see it right there, where it locks in place. I just sanded it down just a little bit. You can still kind of see the work on there. I just took it to a little bit of sandpaper and it corrected that. I put this thing back together and it doesn't have lock stick anymore. But it used to be where once it was open and locked in place, you could not unlock it. No matter how hard you tried to push down on the lock, it just was not going to budge. But I gotta tell you though, the Talwar is a fantastic knife if you're able to find it. To me, it is a really good fighting knife if you're interested in that kind of thing. It just fits in the hand. It really does. It kind of to me, it's kind of got that like scoop feel to it. Like it's there. It ain't going anywhere. Even if someone tried to grab onto it to pull it, which would be dumb, you still got it's locked in place. So this is a great fighting knife. This is the AUS-8 version. This is the original version that they came out with. Yes, it says Taiwan on there, but that's not bad. A lot of good blades come from Taiwan. And there's also bad blades too, but whatever. This is insanely sharp. So, like I said at the beginning of the video, be really careful. I was practicing, and I probably need to go and clean up the rest of the bottles I just remembered just now. I was cutting the bottles in half with my wakizashi. I was practicing. I was actually pretending at one point that I was doing wider cuts to try and see how long, because I'm not used to cutting with such a short blade. I'm used to cutting with full-length katanas, not wakizashis. So that also contributed to my accident. I'm not used to it being so short. So with that being said, my hand was way too close to the opening of the saya, the scabbard, the blade holder, so that you guys have a good idea. It's that thing that holds the blade in there and you pull it out. I had my hand way too close to that. So when I went to go pull it out and I pulled the saya back to move the saya out of the way as it's in my belt line, I cleared it out of the way, but my hand wasn't out of the way. and it nicked the base of my thumb at just the right speed, and I was like, whoa. So just be really mindful of what you do, and be really careful, even when you're practicing with wave opening knives, which can also be dangerous. When you practice, do it slow. Be mindful of whoever or whatever's behind you. You don't want to cut any furniture or any family members or any pets or anything like that. A lot of people that do wave opening knives, I've seen kind of some mess ups where someone would open a wave open knife but didn't realize their couch was right there, and they sliced open their couch. So just be really careful. Know your surroundings and practice, but do it safely, do it slowly, and you'll get better at it over time. This is just a mess up. Like I said, I've done it hundreds of times, and I've never once ever cut myself. I actually cut the base of my thumb right here when I was drawing out a katana, and it just nicked my thumb. Of course, it would bleed forever. It was such a clean cut. But, for a week, I couldn't move my thumb like this because it would open up and blood would come out, where the bend is, So be really careful with extra sharp blades. You get cut by one of those things and your body will respond in a very, very awesome way. So just be really careful with everything you do, whether you're cutting vegetables with a kitchen knife, whether you're whittling wood. Knives are sharp, and all it takes is one cut, and depending on where you cut, it's not going to be pretty. So be very careful, use caution and common sense. So I love you all. Thank you for your support. If you like this video, please stab that like button, slash that subscribe, and if it's at all possible, stick around. I might have some more stuff for you. And yes, I will do cutting demonstrations. I just won't be doing any drawing, anything really cool like, cutting, swinging the blade as fast as I can out of my scabbard. I'm going to try and avoid those kind of videos because, potentially I could ultimately cause another accident or hurt myself or someone or something else other. I'm always really, really careful about who and what's around me, and so you should be too. I would rather have an accident with myself than with anything or anyone else around me. So with that being said, please use common sense, be safe out there, and I will see you guys in the next video.